Hello friends in anatomy and physiology class. This is Hassan Nafid at Madison College in Wisconsin. We'll continue talking about our respiratory system anatomy. This time we're going to talk about the lungs. We're going to look at the gross anatomy of the lungs, and we're going to look at microscopic slides that describes the histology and the structure of the lungs tissues. There's two lungs, one in each side, right lung and left lung, and it is enclosed in the thoracic cavity. The thoracic cavity is separated from the abdominal cavity by the diaphragm. The diaphragm is this muscle that separates the thoracic cavity from the abdominal cavity. It also contracts to help in the expiration and inspiration process. Each lung is enclosed in a double layer membrane. This is called the pleura. The pleura has two layers, parietal pleura and visceral pleura. The parietal pleura lines up the thoracic cavity. This is the thoracic cavity here. From inside, if I remove one of these lungs out to expose part of it, this is the line. This blue line here is the parietal pleura. I'm going to put it a little bit like that and magnify so you can look at it. All right, here is the lining of the parietal pleura. This blue line here that shows the parietal pleura, which is the lining of the lungs. The visceral pleura on the other side, if we put it back in the regular magnification, it lines up the top of each lung. So visceral pleura and parietal pleura. In between the two, the space is known as the pleural space. It does have a little thin film of fluid that lubricates and helps in the movement of expiration and inspiration when the lungs expands and relax. If you pay attention here, the right lung has 3 lobes, left lung has 2 lobes. This area where the heart is showing up here, this is known as the cardiac notch, and this is the space that's devoted for the heart. Taking a good view of the lung here again, take a look at the areas. This is known as the apex. This is the top of the upper lobe of the lung. It's like this tip is known as the apex, while this is known as the base. So the base, the apex, and the lung field. The lung field itself is thrown into 3 lobes, and each lobe is divided or thrown into lobules. The lobes on the right lung are 3: upper lobe, middle lobe, and inferior lobe. There is 2 fissures that divides the lung. This is the oblique fissure. It's between the lower lobe and the middle lobe. This is the transverse fissure, and it divides the upper lobe and the lower lobe. On the other side, the left lung has only 2 lobes, upper lobe and lower lobe, and 1 fissure, and that is the oblique fissure. As we mentioned earlier, the diaphragm is the muscular layer that contracts. This is the major muscle of respiration. It is supplied by the phrenic nerve. The diaphragm is pierced by some structures that get through it. This is the esophagus and the aorta and the inferior vena cava and the some vessels. These are the structures that can get through the diaphragm. The ultrastructure of the lungs is structured from sacs. These air sacs are known as the alveoli. The alveoli are air sacs. That's where gas diffusion and exchange takes place. The lungs will get in oxygen, so oxygen will diffuse into the blood, while carbon dioxide will diffuse to the alveoli and then be expired in the process of expiration. So with inhalation, we're getting air or oxygen in, and exhalation, we're getting carbon dioxide out. The alveoli are the structures that are responsible for this gas diffusion due to the unique structure of the alveoli. The alveoli are sacs that are lined up with squamous, simple squamous epithelium that enables and makes gas diffusion an easy process. Let's go and take a look at the microscopic structure of the alveoli. I have a slide here in the microscope that I would like to share with you. This is a section of a lung tissue here showing the alveolar sacs. It also is showing some alveolar ducts, and these are the terminal pores by which the primary or the respiratory bronchioles are connected to the alveoli. If you see here in this slide, let me show you this part. That is one of the alveolar ducts, and it leads to the alveoli. If you see, this is one alveoli, another alveoli, and it is air sacs. This is where gas exchange takes place. In between, there is an interstitium, or what you call the space between the alveoli, interstitial tissues. So each alveoli is lined up with squamous epithelium. Alveoli works to perform gas exchange. I will put it in a higher power so to show you the details of the alveolar sac. Looking at the slide in a high power, this is again the space or the alveolar space or the alveolar sac, and it's lined up with simple squamous epithelium. If you see the nuclei of the cells, and there is adjacent other alveoli. In between, you're gonna see the interstitium. So the alveoli are lined up with simple squamous epithelium. You see the nuclei, one cell here, one cell, another cell, and a lot of cells that forms the alveoli or the alveolar wall. Again, putting it back in a very low power, the 40x. If you see the alveoli again, that's what you see under the microscope. Again, the alveolar ducts here, and maybe these are also parts of the primary bronchioles, and it leads to alveolar ducts, and the alveolar ducts leading to alveoli. On the side here, probably sometimes you see some blood vessels that in between, but also you see the interstitium in the middle or between the alveoli. See another time in another video of our anatomy sessions.